Hello everyone, my name is Siad Malim from Soma Academy, and today I'm going to share with you how to solve quadratic equation using the quadratic formula. Typically, a quadratic equation looks like this: ax squared plus px plus c is equal to 0, where a is the coefficient of the x squared term, b is the coefficient of the x term, and c is the constant. So in this case, the quadratic formula is such that x is equal to minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, all divided by 2 times a. And remember, I said a is the coefficient of the x squared term, b is the coefficient of the x term, and c is the constant. So let us do an example. X squared plus 4x minus 21 is equal to 0. The first thing you need to do is to ensure that the right hand side of the equation is always equal to 0. If the constant is on this side, make sure you bring it to the left side of the equation. Okay, so next step is to identify these coefficients and the constant. So in this case, a is equal to the coefficient of the x squared term is 1, b, which is the coefficient of the x term, is 4, c, which is the constant, is negative 21, as in this example. So the next step is to plug these numbers into the equation here. Okay, so let me rewrite one more time. X is equal to minus b plus or minus the square root of p squared minus 4 times a times c divided by 2 times a. Okay, so we have identified what b is. We said b is 4 plus or minus, but we have to put a negative sign in there because there is a negative sign in here. So the square root of p squared, which is 4 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 1 in this case, multiplied by c, which is negative 21. All of that divided by 2 times 1, because a is 1. Okay, these are the constants we identified. A is 1, b is 4, c is negative 21, and that's what I put in here. Okay, let us simplify further. Negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 4 squared is 16 minus 4 times 1 is 1 multiplied by negative 21. So when this negative sign, when you multiply with that negative, it becomes a positive, and this becomes 84. Divided by 2 times 1 is just 2. Okay, let's continue one more step further. Negative 4 plus or minus the square root of, when you add these two, you get 100 divided by 2. Okay, so this is equal to minus 4 plus or minus the square root of 100 is 10 divided by 2. So in this case, we have two solutions. One solution is where we use where 10, where the square root is positive, and the other one is when the square root is negative. So that will be solution 1 will be minus 4 plus 10 divided by 2. solution 2 would be minus 4 minus 10 divided by 2. Okay, so when you add these two, negative 4 plus 10 is positive 6 divided by 2, that will give you 3. Okay, so minus 4 minus 10, that's negative 14 divided by 2 is equal to negative 7. So the two solutions that you have for x is equal to positive 2 and x is also equal to negative 7. Okay, let us do one more example. Okay, let's do one more example. X squared minus 4x is equal to 5. The first step we said is bring the constant to the left side of the equation. So that will be x squared minus 4x. Because it is positive, it becomes negative when you take it to the other side of the equation. That is equal to a 0. So the next step is to identify a, b, and c. What is a here? A is 1 because the coefficient of x squared is 1 here. B is negative 4 because the coefficient of the x term is negative 4. C is also equal to negative 5. Okay, so once you identify those values, the next is to just put that into the formula. But for the formula you have to memorize. Okay, minus b plus or minus the square root of p squared minus 4 times a times c divided by 2 times a, which is equal to, what is b? Is negative 4, negative. So negative 4 times this negative becomes positive. Okay, so plus or minus the square root of negative 4 squared, that is 16, minus 4 times a. What is a? A is 1 multiplied by c, which is negative 5. Okay, divided by 2 times a is 1, so it's just 2. This will give you 4 plus or minus the square root of 16 negative 5 times 1 times negative 4 gives you positive 20. All this divided by 2. So that will give me 4 plus or minus the square root of, add these two, that is 36 divided by 2. Okay, so that's that is 2. Okay, so let me write it down here. 4 plus or minus the square root of 36 divided by 2. What is the square root of 36? That is 6, so it will be 4 plus or minus 6 divided by 2. 4 plus 6, that's one of the solution. It's 10 divided by 2. That will give me 5. The other one is 4 minus 6. That is minus 2 divided by 2. Okay, so let me just write down 4 minus 6 divided by 2. 4 minus 6 is minus 2 divided by 2, that's equal to negative 1. So the solutions for x in this case is x is equal to 5 and x is also equal to negative 1. Okay.